pick a spot over here. And I'm gonna sit next to my masterpiece. I'm pretty proud of this little garden over here. Made a big change. That was another dumpy area. I went and bought a bunch of these, and she liked these slides, and I said, go easy on them because it's gonna look like it's an airport. An airport. Let's talk about what's happening. I still have to continue with the boat project. Well, Fuentes, you know, it's a Rosado Grand Reserve. The minute you light it up, it's a beautiful aroma. If you're into cigars, try one of these. Arturo Fuente. Now, on the boat, my friend, the mechanic, he already installed the fuel pump. And he told me there was a piece of hose going from the pump to the carburetor that the hose is old and needs to be replaced. And I think I still have a piece. I need about a foot and a half or so. If not, I'll go buy one at Westmoreland. So I got to do that when I get there. I'm going to go there tomorrow. But while I've been working on different little things here and there, I'm pouring gas in the tank that was supposed to be leaking. Right now I put in, it's got already 45 gallons. There's no leaks. And I'm still trying to figure out how did the gas came out. I have a theory, but it's a theory that is not gonna fly because it's just not gonna fly. Let me explain. Being that gas has gotten expensive, even before the war, okay. I was taking gas to the boat every time I would go to do something and go through my list, and I say, okay, I'm gonna this and that, and then I say, okay, I'll take 2 jugs of 5 gallons. Sometimes I take my 14-gallon wheel tank. Sometimes I would take the 14-gallon and a 5-gallon. So I would be pouring gas because I wouldn't dare go to the marina fuel depot because it's $6 a gallon. And we have a gas station here that is very reasonable. It's cheaper than anybody around, just a few cents over Costco. So since I don't like to make those long lines, which they are long, I just go to the gas station. And sometimes I go to Save-Ons, it's about the same. 3-4 cents over, 5 cents, maybe 7 cents. But it's not as bad if you go to a gas station that is $6, $6.41, or $5.99 or $5.89. You know what I mean? So I will go buy a few gallons, right? So one day I went and I said, okay, let me put some gas. So I put gas, but before filling up the tank, the 14-gallon tank, I was looking at the hose. The hose was stiff and a little long, and I said, it's kind of hard to handle. It's already old, it's stiff. And I said, well, let me. And I had a long piece on the valve. I have a valve. Oh, speak of which, I have one here. Okay. I have this valve, something like this, to the end of the hose that comes from the tank, and I have another valve like this that it's in the tank. So I got double controls. I got the one at the end, and I got the one on the tank to shut it off. And then at the end, and here at the end, I had a piece of, I think it was 18 inches or something like that. And I decided to cut it. I said, you know, I need to cut the big one, but let me cut this one now. So I went and cut it short. I cut it, I threw it away already. I think I cut it 8 inches, okay? Because all you have to do is put it in the hole, you know, in your gas tank. And you just put the gas in by gravity. Just open up the valve in the tank, open up this valve, let it flow, right? So then when I finish pouring all the gas, I went and took the tanks back to the truck. And then I got on the boat and I opened the hatch, and when I look down, I see gas in the bilge, and I'm going, where does this come from, you know? So immediately I say, wait a minute, whoa, the tank is leaking. The tank is leaking, right? So I got my pump, got a little, what's it called? The tapper. Very good little pump. I removed the tubing that sucks the gas, send it to the engine, and I put my line in there, and I put the other line in the rear tank, and I started pumping. Turn it on and pump it, right? And I pumped the gas off the bottom, and later I went in there with soap and water, wash it, etc. Okay. But the thing is this: I counted the time that the pump's supposed to pump about a gallon a minute, something like that. So it took about half an hour. So I figured, okay, so it took a little bit more than half an hour. So I calculated 33 gallons. So 33 gallons, it's a little bit under half a tank. And I said, okay, why did it spill? Where did it spill from? So that's when I started doing my investigation. I pumped the whole thing out. I removed the sender. I let it air out for weeks, let it dry out, right? Then I went in and I bought a camera, and I went in with the camera and I started investigating the walls, and because the gas. All right, let me see. Okay, this is the tank. Gas comes in through the pipe here. There is a divider. The sender is here. The fuel sending unit is here, and the further in the back is where you put the gas in there. And right down this line on the bottom, the floor, that's where the paint started peeling, because the gas removes, you can clean, you know, it removes paint. So that's why I noticed it. It wasn't further in. It was from that point. So I said, okay, the leak has to be in this side, right? And there's a divider inside what do you call a baffle inside the tank, so the gas is not sloshing around. And there's another one further back here. I imagine maybe it has 3. I don't know. So this is the area all the way down, which is about 18 inches, I think, that I investigated with the camera because I couldn't go any further down the tank. So I looked and I looked and I looked, and I showed video, me looking here, looking there, and then I said, okay, I have to clean it because it had a lot of little dimples and pimples and crap in there. So I poured in detergent and I cleaned it, and you know, and I put a Sta-Bil, and that really dissolved it and cleaned it, And I said, okay, let it air dry again. Kept looking with the camera, couldn't find a hole. And the hole must have been big, because I had out there on the bilge, I had a good 5 gallons, I'm gonna say. So I couldn't I couldn't find anything to show that the gas came out. And another thing, to be honest, is I don't know if the gas was already there when I got there with the extra gas. So a friend of mine said it's got to be a slow leak, and that's why it's it got to be the amount you think it was. And I'm going, yeah, but that tank was pretty much down to nothing. Maybe I had 8 gallons in there, and I kept bringing in once in a while, bringing a few. I wasn't planning on filling the tank or anything. I just wanted to make it level because the bulb will ride even if you have, let's say, 30 here, then you have 30 here, right? Well, I didn't have 30. I said, well, let me put some gas where the boat is not leaning. It doesn't lean, but just in case, when you're driving and you're riding, the boat is not going to go sideways. That was the purpose of me taking gas because I wanted to get good. Hey, doing a video here. He's at it again. So I wanted to get good gas from the marina because I was going to make a ride to. We're going to make a drive to down the beach, which is 20 something miles, about 25 miles away. And I wanted to have good gas so that both engines are running with good gas. But I wanted to even it out. All right. Anyways, now since I couldn't find anything, I started thinking, well, maybe the gas. This is the theory now that you're gonna say no. Okay. This is the theory that the only theory I have that the sender unit when I put it in, it was a new one. It wasn't sitting flat on the tank because the tank is it's at an angle like this because of the shape of the boat. So the sending unit was a little long. I should have bought a 19. I bought a 20, and it was sitting cockeyed, so it was kind of tilted like this, and it wasn't exactly flat against the metal. So there was an opening there, and I started thinking, well, maybe the gas traveled. This is the weird thing. Traveled through the top because the I cut the hose, right? So the hose is up here, and it goes in, and maybe it wasn't long enough to drip down. It was on the side of the wall of the hose, and then it traveled on the roof of the tank until it got to the center, where it's opening, and it started pouring exactly there because that's where the paint started peeling. That's what I was thinking. But that doesn't make any sense. I can understand a little bit of gas traveling on the top and just dripping out, but not 5 gallons. So 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 I said, well, there's nothing else I can do. There's nothing else I can look for. Uh, Let me start putting, you know, gas in. So I put the sender back in. I made a spacer for the top. I think you've seen it. So now the sender's high, and now it's not touching the bottom. It's not cockeyed. It's exactly flat and it's tight. And I put a gasket material on the gasket so it's sealed. There's no going to be any drip or anything. And I started putting in gas. So when I started putting gas, I went in and replaced the short hose, and I put a 16-inch, I think it was a 16-inch or 17-inch hose. And we're pouring in gas. We've been taking trips, and tomorrow we're going to take some more. And we're going to put gas again. So right now we got 45. There's no leakage. The guy went to put the pump on the other engine. He popped all the hatches. He didn't call me and say, hey, you got a leak. Nothing. No smell. Nothing. Okay. So now today I was thinking I'm going to do another experiment. And the experiment is going to be that if for some reason that hose caused the leakage, not on the tank, but on the hose, the main hose that brings in the gas, maybe that hose, even though I already looked at it with the camera, maybe that hose has a crack that I didn't see. So what I'm going to do is that, and I need help with this because I'm going to have to be inside looking with the flashlight, and I'm gonna take the little camera, and then my wife's gonna controlling the gas. So we're gonna put the hose in. I'm gonna tell her open it up, and then start pulling the hose out. See at what point, without taking it out, of course. At one point, if it's gonna start dripping or spilling. That's the only thing I could do there to find out if the tank has a, not the tank now, if the hose has a leak, because the pipe, there's a pipe coming out of the tank is about 6 inches or 7 inches, something like that, and then you got the hose over that, and that goes up to your feeder where you put in the gas. So let's see what happens there. It had to be it had to be something like that. It wasn't a slow little leak, because the amount of paint that came off wasn't a little line. It was a good wide piece like this, and then it went down and it peeled the whole side. That means it was gushing, not just a little drip, thin little stream, because you can see by the paint if it's a little stream, little by little, slowly taking the paint. No, it was about that wide. That's why I'm thinking that it happened while I was pouring the gas, and the gas was against the wall of the hose on one side or the other, and it found a gash, which is not easy because those hoses have wire inside, so it's not going to be a long crack going down, but anything can happen. It's an original hose, I imagine. So I'm going to see if that's the reason, that's the way it happened, that it dripped down to the front of the tank. And then, because I was thinking, what if it happened towards the back? But I looked and I took pictures and everything, and there's no peeling towards the side and the back of the tank. So it's weird. It's weird. And I have to get this resolved, because I can now go out to sea thinking that the tank is going to burst on me and leak out a certain amount of gas. It's either leaking or not, and I'm beginning to think that it's not leaking. I'm almost sure that it's not the tank. It had to do something I did when I was pouring gas in the tank. That short hose caused an issue. I should have had a longer hose. Last time we went, we put the hose all the way in, open it up, nothing. Nothing. So we're both baffled. We keep going back on theories. Well, what if it could have been this? What if it could have been that? And then we just can't come up with a reasonable answer, because it doesn't make that the leak from the top, that only happens if you filled it up, and I didn't fill it up. If you have a hole on top, or you got a disconnected hose or a disconnected sender, in my case it was open about that much that I didn't notice, on one side only. If you fill it up to the top, then it will start bubbling. But then before that happens, there's a breather that has a hose that goes outside. That's the one that squirts out when the tank is full. And it'll go poof, poof, it'll squirt out some gas, telling you tank is full, don't put any more, right? That didn't squirt because I was on the outside, and if I would have filled it up, that would have happened, but it didn't happen because I did not fill it. When I started pumping out gas, I had 33 gallons in the tank, about a half. The tank is 70. So that didn't overflow from the top. And I can't find out how did it spill, and why did it spill exactly where the sending unit is lined up with it to the ground. That's the mystery. So I'm gonna conduct that experiment tomorrow. I'm gonna tell you, put it in, open it, and then back up the hose all the way to the edge of the top, and pour it, and go around the hose to see if at any point it'll start leaking from one side or the other. Maybe the hose has a hole and I don't know about. That's one thing I gotta find out for sure, to have peace of mind. So let me get away from here because this bird is loud and he doesn't shut up. Okay, later. Okay, I had to get away from that bird because he is going wacko. He's like the what is it, wood woodpecker? You know, it doesn't shut up. He's looking for a mate, I think. But he's loud and he's constant and he's here. For some reason, he likes my yard and he's on top of my neighbor's house, right over. I was working on the blazer, and he's right over me and he's going at it, and he is loud. Okay, so I finished talking about the my boat. Now I'm going to tell you something happened to me a long time ago with another boat. I and that was scary. Uh, I bought this Raynell 23 uh, with a 302 Ford, I think it had, and the engine was running pretty good. You know, I drove it, but the guy I bought it from, he he didn't take care of the boat. He didn't. He when I went to see it in Santa Monica, in Redondo, no, was it Redondo? I think it was Redondo. Apparently it must have rained, and he had about a foot of water. So I pulled the plug on it, and it just started spilling. Because I went to see it first before, you know, I said, let me see the boat, where is it? He told me, and I said, okay, let me go check it out, and then I'll call you if I'm interested. So anyways, then I looked inside, I opened up the box, and I looked inside, and he had, instead of belts, he had a piece of rope with duct tape on it. And I said, that must have been a repair in the ocean because, but no, that's the way that guy was. The boat needed some work, but I liked the boat. It looked like a fast boat. And I did some things to it. You know, I even built my own swimming platform out of teak. I went to a place in I think it was Culver City that they had exotic woods, and I bought all the thing and I designed it, shaped it, cut it, sanded, varnished the hell out of it. It had a lot of coats, and I bought the brackets and I did the whole thing. It didn't have that. Okay, then I put the stabilizers, but they weren't connected to anything because the boat, every time you take off, the boat will come up like this, and then eventually will settle down and go on plane. But I wanted something to help me with it, so I put a stabilizers with it had the hydraulic arm, but I didn't have the pump or anything, and I didn't even know where to get the. Back then there was no internet, so you it was not easy to find stuff, and I didn't even know the name of the pump. So what I did is I pushed it down on the hydraulic arm, the plate. I pushed it and I put a piece of 2x4 in there. I kind of did like a U cut, and I popped it in on the shaft, and that will keep that angle all the time to keep me on plane. So that was done. Then I did a subfloor. It had a step down, so I said this step down, it's a good place to put a fish box. So I made a fish box, put it in there, wrapped it with carpet. I had hinges on it. I cut the door so the door would swing over it. Okay, I installed lighting and lamps, and you know, it was nice. And at night, all the gauges was working, and it was red. It was okay. It was nice. I bought the boat. I fixed it. Okay, including I took the trailer to a trailer place, and I said sandblast it and give it a coating of what do you call it? Cerakote, I think it's called. It's like a matte finish. And then I checked the brakes on it. You know, I did a lot of work on it before putting it in the water and fixed it up. Then I took it to the yard that back then they allowed you to work on boats and pay $300. And my uncle and me, they put the boat on a cradle. My uncle and me sanded it and painted the bottom. It was green. And I said, no, man, this is a trailable boat, and you're gonna have a green bottom, weird looking. So I sanded it and I painted it white, or I think I took it down to the gel coat. I wanted it smooth. Anyways, so I did that, and you know, so then I would take it locally, take it out, and ride around. It was fun. And then one day, I was hanging out with this girl, And I said, hey, let's invite somebody and let's go to Catalina for I think it was the 4th of July weekend. And she goes, yeah, and she liked to drink, so she said, get a bottle of Cuervo, and I'm going, ooh. So we did, I bought a bottle. Anyways, and there was another couple that came with us, and so I've taken the boat to Lake Pyro, to Lake Paris, to I took it to a bunch of lakes, and the boat was running great, right? Skiing, we had a ball. I'm trying to remember that other lake. Oh, Pyramid, Lake Pyramid. We had a ball in that lake. You know, there must have been like 15, 20 people, couples going in there. Anyways, and then another friend went with a Tahiti, a flatboat. So I would always back in the boat with the blazer and get the boat in the water, lower the outdrive, turn the engine, and back it out, right? And then park it and start loading stuff, people and everything, coolers. So we went to Long Beach, backed it in, but it was so close to the pier that for the first time, I didn't crank it up or anything. I just pushed it off and walked it to the side and tied up, and then we started bringing towels and everything you're taking for the beach and the cooler and everything. And I pulled it all the way to the end because there was a lot of people launching boats and they needed the space. So before taking the boat down to the water, of course I gassed it up at a gas station. And the tank, I don't remember if it was 50 or 60 gallons. I don't remember. Um, Filled it up, and then so we went to the uh, to the ramp. So as we were loading, right, and I'm over here, putting things around, and this little old lady, she must have been in her late 70s or early 80s, and she goes, "Hi, can I?" She says, "I'm a volunteer. What was it? Coast Guard or something, and we want to know if you have your safety equipment." And I said, "Yeah." So she says, "Okay, how many life preservers you have? How many jackets?" And I showed everything I had. And she goes, "Okay, let me see if you have a flare." I showed her my flare kit with a gun and the whole thing. Do you have any signal flares? I took them out. And she goes, "Okay, looks like you're ready to go." And then she goes, "Okay, thank you." But before leaving, she goes, "I smell gas." And she says, "I'm a smoker, but I smell gas." And I said, "You smell gas?" She goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "Well, I gassed it up, maybe a little bit spill on the side. She walked away because I passed the check. And then I said, "Okay, well, why is she smelling gas?" Because I didn't really smell that much. But you're out in the open. Anyways, she got a pretty good nose. I open up the box and I look in, and there was gas in there. And I went, "Oh my God, where does this come from?" So immediately I had a bucket and I started getting the gas out of there. And while I'm over here doing this with a little what do you call it? I had a little handle uh, scooper or something. I kind of glanced to the side and I see the gas hose that runs on the side of the engine, bad design, and goes into the tank. The tank is in the floor, right? The whole top of the hose was eaten away. It was a canoe. It was open, and that's why the gas was spilling as I was gassing. Because I said, "Where's all this gas coming from?" Right? So I said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." So I said to my friend, "Listen, we can't go nowhere with this. We need to get all this gas out, and we need to clean it, and we need a new hose." So we walked. It must have been a mile away or more or less to the store, and we bought. I took the old hose as a measurement. And I said I need a piece like this. The hose was toasted because of the heat of the engine. That is the most idiotic, stupid mistake that an engineer could make, or a designer of the boat, because the hose, the top of the hose, was gone, almost the whole length of it, because the heat, it wasn't really the top, it was more like on the side like this, because the heat of the engine is right here. So with the years, it was cooking and cooking and cooking and cooking, and I didn't notice that when I bought the boat, right? And before, when I took it to the lakes and stuff, because I don't think I ever filled it up. So, man, that was a scary. If it wasn't for the little old lady, we would have died, because if I would have cranked that engine, and there's some spark down there with the alternator and the starter and whatever, boom, right? So when we got to the store, I said, "Hey, I need this hose, and I need absorbent towels. You know, those pads, those white pads." So I got under there and I soaked everything up, put it in a trash bag, clean it, clean it, clean it, and then I had, for some reason, I don't know why, I had dish soap in there, and I had a broom, and I went and got some buckets of water and put it in there, and squirt some soap and foam it up and put water and put water and put water. It was squeaky clean by the time I was done. And then once we got everything, I said, okay, everybody out of the boat, because you know you have those fumes. So everybody out, and the whole thing is open. And I turned on my blower, and I said, okay, crank the engine, boom, and start it. And nothing happened. I said, okay, you know. And what I did, to play it safe, I put half a bucket of water down there, let it slush around, and keep it, you know, keep it wet. Uh, Things like that happens. That was a scary. And I still remember the little old lady. She's dead by now, but she saved our lives, really, because when she said that she smelled gas, and I really didn't pay attention to it. Maybe there was some smell of gas, but it wasn't that strong to me. Um, because this engine is not in a hole; it's kind of above, in a box on top. You know, which I don't like those, because you have to walk around it. Anyways, so that happened. A friend of mine um, was gassing up. He went to Lake, I think it was Havasu, or someplace in Mexico. I don't remember. And they were gassing. He had a nice, I think it was an eliminator boat, you know, all wrapped around in material, you know, leather, not leather, vinyl, with the blue trim and in white. Little, no, it was red trim. I remember, red trim, and it was white. He had a nice paint job on the side, and the mother was sitting on the engine block, you know, on those cushy, like a sofa, and they were going to gas up, and they turned the blower on, and the boat exploded. It just went boom. The lady went flying, landed on the water. Everybody dropped in the water. They fell on the water, and the boat caught on fire. And apparently, the blower caused the explosion, because they didn't have a marine blower. I don't know. Those motors are really sealed. They shouldn't create any sparks. So maybe he tried to start it or something, and that would have cost it. Because what you do is, and the habit I had was, except that day, that before turning on the engine, I would open up the box and look. Right? Is there a spark plug wire hanging? What's going on? You know. And that day I didn't get a chance, because the lady came in first and took my attention away from doing that, asking me if I had the life vest, and if I had the gear and the emergency, and that. So I always open up and look, in case, because you have to do a visual inspection. But these people, when they started gassing up, they didn't open it up. So apparently, already had accumulated fumes in there from who knows if it was dripping fuel line or whatever, and and the boat blew up when you were gassing, and that happens. That happens almost every year. So that's why I am doing my inspection and I'm doing my due diligence on this boat, and I'm checking every corner and I'm checking every box because don't want nothing to happen. So tomorrow we're gonna do another visual before anything, and then I'm gonna take out the camera, set it up so I can see around the pipe and see if for some reason it leaks from there. You know, but the since I've been putting gas in the tank, I put that hose way in there. It's about that long, and have no issues. So it happened when I shortened the hose. So it had to happen in that neck. That neck, I have to measure. I gotta put a measuring tape down there and see. It might be 16 inches or something like that. But let me see. Okay, 16 inches. No, it's not gonna be that long. I think it might be 10. So it might have 3 inches of pipe. Okay, let me see, 10 inches, 7, and then the rest will be the hose. I had to investigate that because I'm very curious to know how did that gas come out of the tank, in what manner, and from what point, what direction. Was it from the end? Was it from the beginning? In the middle? I gotta find out. So I'm not going out. I'm not taking anybody out. I got my niece husband. He's a fishing fanatic. He keep asking, "Is the boat ready? Is the boat ready?" I say, "Well, the boat's ready, but I'm doing some things that's still not the season, so don't worry about it." And I'm trying to get everything done before the season gets here. So yeah, that day was scary, but I got it. I fixed it, and got it all cleaned out. Then when I got home, I gave it another shot of water, soap and water, and let it drain out the bottom there, the back. That's the advantage of having a trailable boat. So on this one, I did the same thing. I got those soaking pads, soap and water, and let it soak up, you know, and clean it. So now once I find that there's no issues, can't find no leakage or anything, I already bought the paint, the bilge paint, so we can repaint the whole thing. And last week we went and I was doing. I was trying to remove the pump, but I couldn't because of my arm, and my arm is getting worse. But anyways, I said, well, since I'm here, let's clean up the bilge. I got the vacuum, pumped all the water out, filled it up 3 times to make sure the pumps are working. The pumps are working, and soaped it up. And I got a brush there, and I brushed the bottom, make sure it's squeaky clean, and that's clean. Uh, and then pump the water out. It's just soap and water. There's no fuel, no grease, no nothing. I've seen some boats that the engine room looks like it's beautiful. It's like a garage. Everything in its place, and toolboxes, and you can stand up in. I'm talking big boats. Yeah, you can stand up in it, but you can sit between the two engines. I can't even do that. I can't even fit my two heads between the engines. I gotta do this and sideways and sideways and sideways. So it is what it is. So then tomorrow I'm gonna take gas. I'm gonna run the engine with the new pump, and and maybe take it out and see how it is. I still gotta lubricate the shifting cables, and I pumped some grease into the steering cable, but I don't know if it reaches down there. You just don't pump it, you have to kind of smear it. There's no way to pump it because you got the spring there, so I don't know exactly how to get back in there. And the steering is a little stiff, but I guess that's the way it's supposed to be. I don't know, but still got to deal with the refrigerator. So I talked to a guy online. He's an expert, and I asked him, okay, I put Freon, but it's not really cooling. It's cold, but it's not cooling enough to make ice. There's no room for me to make the can go upright. I have to do it upside down. And he goes, no, it has to be right side up. You have to pump gas, not liquid. So I pumped liquid. So my friend let me borrow his pump, his vacuum. I'm gonna connect it. I'm gonna vacuum all the liquid out, and then I have a can. I got about half a can. It turns out that half a can it's enough, but I have to put it in a way that I can reach in there and give it a few shots. It takes about an hour to charge it because you just don't open up the valve. That's what I did too. That is wrong. You gotta go and go close it, and then open it up again, and then close it, open it up again, little by little, and fill up the system. So I'm gonna try it, see if I can get that fix. But if you have a boat, you always got something to do, always. So being that I didn't want to do a trip just for lubricating or whatever, and I can't put gas without my helper because I need to supervise. I cannot be under the in the engine compartment and gassing on the other side because you got the hatch in the way. So it's uncomfortable. So she's gonna control the gas. I'm gonna look, and if I see something coming out, say, okay, shut it. Immediately she'll shut it, and then I'll wipe that clean with some pads, and now we know we have a leak if it does. But I'm beginning to doubt it. I'm beginning to doubt it. So we'll see. We'll see. And I need to run it, test it, and bounce it. Maybe there's something underneath that when it bounces a little bit, it'll start spinning. I don't know. If that's the case, that there's a leak under the tank that I didn't see, I'll pump everything up to the other tank and just close this one up and say, okay, I'm not using this tank. I'm not going to remove it. It's going to cost a lot of money. All right, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.